Here's what's coming up on today's show.
Markets are always up and down every single day. Prices go up way too much sometimes, like they have at the end of last year, and then markets correct eventually.
Welcome to the How Money Works podcast with Craig and Jennifer Moser of Maestro Wealth Advisors, serving you throughout the Triad of North Carolina for more than 30 years.
Time once again for another edition of How Money Works with Craig and Jennifer Moser from Maestro Wealth Advisors. And I'm going to steal from Chris Berman on ESPN because it is the first weekend in January. So let me be the first to welcome you into the 2026 new year. Happy New Year to Craig and Jennifer.
Can you believe 2026?
No.
Make it stop.
Christmas came, Christmas went, New Year's came.
You know that
I
what that
don't want
means,
to be
though?
here.
If
Yeah.
it's 2026, when you go on those apps and you got to scroll down and do that dial to your birth date year,
Yeah, it gets
there's another year
older.
you got to go through. It's like, oh my gosh.
It's something, I
How
know,
back does
for
this
sure.
thing go? That's right.
But it's exciting. I mean, we've got another year to start and to make something happen.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's right. Another year to get
So-
some things rocking and rolling, especially when it comes to your retirement, right? And if you want to retire well, we'll call 833-RETIRE-WELL and get started with the team at Maestro Wealth Advisors. Just pick up the phone, give them a jingle, and get some time on the calendar here in the first quarter of the year. 833-RETIRE-WELL, or visit them online at Maestro Wealth Advisors. Because, guys, you don't want to be guilty of, committing retirement sabotage. It's
What a segue.
I know, right? You like that? What do? We make, what do you call those things? Resolutions, right? And then we scratch them within like the first 2 weeks. And finance sometimes is on that list too. I'm going to get better with my finances this year. And then you chuck it out the window within 2 weeks. So let's talk about some ways to not do that. Let's start, Craig, with the market, right? So we did our last show at the end of the year just a couple of weeks ago for the end of the holiday season, talking about, the year that was, and the market was very volatile. The headlines are going to change, but the market volatility is going to stay the same, I think, right? So you can't obsess about it.
Short-term up and downs. I love people that are stock traders because they're going, hey, it was up $1 and it was down $2. And I'm like, okay, but
It does it every day.
Well, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. We're not stock traders, It is fun if you have a little extra money and some time to sit there and you have a good market behind you, you might make a few bucks. If you had a bad market, every time you touch the thing, it just loses money. So, it just depends on what the market's doing. But you don't have to go to Las Vegas to have fun if you wanted to be there. But we're long term when it comes to planning for retirement. So we don't look at markets perhaps the same way as somebody that's trying to figure out up and down. The market was this or that on a single day or even a week, really. I mean, think about it this way. Once you've put a plan together that has safe money, that's going to be there. This is the money I'm spending maybe the next 1, 2, or 3 years. You have cash flow coming from your income bucket. And just as a rule of thumb, I'm not trying to say this is what we can do because I can't, but I can't say it. But what I can say is that you need something like about a 7% yield to pay you. So how do you get that? Real estate, dividends, some interest. We use something called structured income notes a lot, and they pay really good. And those types of things to pay you in the middle. And then your growth stuff is where you're kind of not trying to get out of the markets very, very often, and that type of money has a chance to grow and let the long-term market do its thing for you. So, look at it differently. Markets are always up and down every single day. Prices go up way too much sometimes, like they have at the end of last year, and then markets correct eventually. There's no way to know when that's going to happen. You can sort of look at it and make your best guess. That's what an economist does, right? Mm-hmm. They guess. And so when you look at the markets, Craig's saying things are a little pricey, and you'll probably see some corrections coming up. That's an opportunity for your long-term bucket. But you have to have the other ones, or what you put yourself into is a world where you're constantly hoping that the value of your asset goes up. You need to set up an income plan. The components are lifetime income, income generating assets, growth assets, the things that can be there long term. People were asking me, like what? Well, technology is an easy idea, this artificial intelligence. man, it's going places right now. But you need energy for that stuff. You need infrastructure for that stuff. Where are future dollars being spent? And those are things that we look at and say, we're looking in these spaces where the opportunities, and if people are going to spend money there, then those companies that we buy are going to benefit from that. So long term, so think about it and not just say I'm in the market or I'm in stocks or I'm in the S&P, but actually use different components and understand what each one of them does. That's what we do to help you get to and through your retirement.
We were talking about this. Let's put a little reel to this. When people are working and they've got their 401k, they're putting money in every paycheck. More people than not don't look at that 401k as they're continuing to build that 401k. They put money in. They know the market's going to go up and down. They're doing dollar cost averaging. All of a sudden, it becomes a big nest egg.
Right.
What we see more often is once you've retired and this big nest egg gets moved into an account outside of that 401k, that's when I see when I'm talking with clients where they really start looking at that on a day. We had one client that looked on it on a daily basis. Every day they looked at their account.
3 times a day.
Oh my gosh. And we can see when they were doing it because it was tied to some software that we gave them for their own website. And so they obsessed over it. And it's hard to... If you're doing that, when you've got that nest egg, is if you don't have that plan and understand what each component's going to do for you and know that there's going to be some variability along the way, as long as you're not touching it, drawing it out, or you've got that other liquidity bucket that you're drawing your income from, and you've got your growth that's going to have the up and down, you can stay the course and not have that retirement sabotage. So, well, let's talk about another retirement sabotage, Craig, and that's starting that Social Security at the wrong time. It's awfully tempting. People are getting ready to quit work, and they're like, man, I got this Social Security that's just going to turn on, and maybe I can turn it on at 62 and still work and do that, or maybe I should wait until right after I
I'll
quit.
get 8 years and I'll save it. That's the one I hear. If I take that 8 years of Social Security and save it and put it in the market, but you don't.
Yeah, I could do it my way and make more money or something.
Yeah, I hear it all the time, and it's like, I hear you, but you're taking a fairly substantial discount off of that. So your top number is age 70. That's where you're going to get the most check. And you go, gosh, wait until 70. But if you go 8 years earlier, how much are you leaving on the table there if you live really past about age 81 or age 82. I've done so many of these financial plans. We run your Social Security numbers. Your break even on taking it at 62, 67, or 70 is right in the age 81, 82-year-old
And that's just
range.
looking at a single life and a single person.
Yeah, but I mean, if you stop and think about it, if you live past age 81, I'm just using that as a round number, you really left some money on the table. Do you have other money? So as you're building out your financial plan for retirement, think about it this way. I have this big old pile of money in my IRA. Maybe you have some money sitting over in the bank and it's earning some kind of interest rate. And then you're looking at Social Security and saying, I can take the bird in the hand and leave those other two alone. Okay, I can understand that. But truly, if you look at it and you believe that in the years to come, the tax rates will be higher, should you not be drawing money from something like an IRA right now to go ahead and pay the taxes down a little bit, reduce that balance some, because out in the future, there's going to be a year, right now it's probably age 75, where you will be mandated to have to take a percentage out of that account and you have no control. The federal government says we have this required minimum number. You will have to take it. It's a percentage. And every year going forward from there, we're going to insist that you take that money from the IRA. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, your control has been taken away because you don't know what the tax rate will be. Will it be as it is now versus in the future? Or will it be much higher because the government says, hey, we need the money. We've got to have it. So you've got to think long term and say, let me build a plan. Let me take cash flows that are the best for me long term. Don't just say to yourself, I can have a check, because that's short-term thinking.
Right.
You know, I hate to just say it country, but it sort of is. You need to have a plan. You need to have evaluated when is the best time for me to take this Social Security, not just the emotional part of I can get a check.
Let's look at a little bit. I mean, put some numbers to the Social Security question. And really, the best way to look at your particular situation is to actually run your numbers and all the other assets that you have and income that you have going toward your family income. But if you were born basically 1960 or later, which is most of the people that we see today, born 1960 or later, your full retirement age is at 67, meaning that's the amount that you're going to get, just your best Social Security benefit without increases after that. Any money that you take before then is going to be reduced. So 67 being your full retirement age. If you start at 62, you're taking up to 30% reduction. So when would you potentially recommend people to take 30% less to get something started without running the numbers?
Oh, never.
Right. So let's look at the numbers and see if you can afford to take 30% less. Now, the good thing about Social Security, after full retirement age, every year you delay is about an 8% increase. So if you can, like you were saying, Craig, look at your other income sources and your other sources. Do you pull from your IRA or other money? 24% increase to wait
until
70.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, reduced by 30, up by 24, huge swing. If you haven't run your numbers, don't go to just a Social Security seminar and say, that's decision for me. You actually have to run your numbers. Look at your spousal, look at yours, widow, divorce, whatever you have going on in your situation to make sure you make the best decision for you possible. That's what we will do when you sit down with one of our financial advisors, Craig, Cameron, or myself, and actually work through your situation. Stay with us, because when we come back from break, we're going to finish up some other things that we've seen people sabotage their retirement by doing or not doing. You're listening to Craig Moser, a certified financial planner, Jennifer Moser, certified exit planning advisor, serving you in the Piedmont from Maestro Wealth Advisors from our Winston office and our Greensboro office. Our family helping your family to retire.
Craig's got more than 35 years of experience helping people get to and through retirement. He's a financial advisor and a certified financial planner. And Jennifer is right there with him as a certified exit planning advisor. And they are here to help you with your retirement strategy. So get onto the calendar at 833-RETIRE-WELL. That's 833-RETIRE-WELL, or go online to maestrowealth.com. That's maestrowealth.com. Check out the YouTube channel, the podcast version of the show. Lots of good tools, tips, and resources. Sign up for the newsletter or just get some time on the calendar. So maestrowealth.com or 833-RETIRE-WELL. We're going to continue on with our retirement sabotage conversation, guys. Into the next point. We covered the market up and down, Social Security at the wrong time. I think for some people, pretending like a long-term care event is not going to happen to them is a big piece of retirement sabotage. So it's not going to happen to me. It's never going to happen to me, kind of thing, right?
That's somebody else, yep.
Yep.
But I'll bet you if you stop and think, people, maybe people close to you that have had that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very expensive. I will tell you, I'm seeing this with my aunt right now. My gosh. Now, she wants to remain at home. So it's a problem, because who do we get to come in and take care of her? If you think about a week, 1 week is 168 hours. Have you ever thought about that?
That's a lot.
So if somebody's going to stay at $20 an hour, that's $3,300 and some odd dollars a week. A week. So all of a sudden you start putting math to it, and it's like, man, that's expensive to have around-the-clock home health care. So what do? Mom, you just don't need to have anybody watch you from 8 o'clock at night until 8 o'clock in the morning. We can cover the daytime, but you're stuck at night, You have a hard time with that. And so if you think you'll stay at home as you age, who's going to pay that bill? And I mean, if that happens, oh my gosh. So I looked online. Nursing homes are in North Carolina somewhere between $109,000 for a semi-private to $122,000 private room. And so then I got on the handy-dandy search engine and I said, how many people over the age of 65 will experience a long-term care event? So doesn't mean you go in a nursing home, but maybe you have some home care or something as you age. The percentage is 70%. And I'm like,
Oh, and if people listening, 70% of the people 65 or older are going to need additional assistance in their old age.
But yet, so we run several scenarios. One of them will be, especially if you're married, one of the two of you will have a long-term care event. And so you go into the facility or have the home health care people coming in, and the other person still maintains the home, pays the property taxes, the car insurance, all of the other stuff that they're normally doing, continuing to live in their home, and all of a sudden you're burning through the cash. And so, I'm looking at these stats. Women, on average about 3.7 years is the long-term care need. Do you have enough cash to pay $20 an hour at 168 hours a week for 3.7 years? It's math at that point. Men, you don't make it as long, 2.2 years. And then I looked at another stat, 20% of the people over the age 65 will go over 5 years for some sort of long-term care. And I'm like, God. And if this is you, do you have the capital to pay it? And if you don't, what's the plan? So the plan is I either insure the risk or I takes my chances. I mean, that's really the difference.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
and it's a hard conversation because nobody wants to fess up to that one. I'd say 3% of the people that come see me actually say, yeah, I need to address this, show me what this stuff costs. And we do. Most people say, well, kind of, I was a veteran, or I'll just move to Mexico, or, I'm just going to shoot myself, something. And it's not a real plan. It's just a cop-out. I don't want to deal with the problem because I know it could happen to me, but I don't want to face it. I hear you because I don't like the idea either.
And
but
what
it's a big problem.
And what happens, like in your scenario, Craig, you've got the husband and wife and they're at home. Typically one of those individuals will have a deteriorating health event, potentially not both at the same time. So the one that's the stronger spouse is picking up the load for the spouse that's declining. And so it's a heavy physical burden for them.
Right.
And so it's a decision of do I do this myself, or do I pay for someone to come in and do some of these services?
You're talking about my father.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And then really what happens is if there is no plan, the plan will be forced on you, and that would be basically spending all of your assets and then going on Medicaid. And so, there's if you don't plan this well, that's very likely an outcome that could happen is that first spouse and then potentially the second spouse, if there's money left over, you're going to go into government assistance and you basically have spent all your assets.
Well, or you don't, but I mean, you need to know the numbers will work for you or not.
Right.
I mean, we really try to be realistic and say, let's take a good hard look at this and then decide, how are you going to deal with it? It's something that people push aside. They'll deal with, if I lose a spouse, I can buy life insurance, or, maybe I can reduce my lifestyle a little bit. But nobody really enjoys the conversation when it gets to long-term care. I hear you.
And there are a lot of different solutions now to help defray the cost of that home care, long-term care, elevated expense. It's not just the single long-term care policy that has gotten a bad rap over the years because of and probably rightly so, because it increases so much and the benefits decrease in order to keep it viable for people to pay. But there are other ways to help finance that. Will it pay 100%? Maybe not. Maybe so.
But do you need 100%?
But right. And then, so again, it's running those numbers and understanding the analysis and the solutions and the give and take. If you haven't run that analysis, then you're basically shorting yourself, and you
don't know what's going to happen because you haven't taken a look into the future and said, what if this event really occurs?
So let's look at another sabotage that people do to their retirement, not just, the market, Social Security, starting it too soon, not understanding the nursing home care stay and the expense. What about assuming that just because you like your job right now means that you'll always love it and never want to retire? And then I added, or the company will want you in that job, right?
True.
So,
I mean, I love being on the radio, but I mean, at some point it might, who knows, right? So,
right, you might be kicked out, or you might kick yourself out.
That's
right?
true. Or
You still sound pretty good there, Mark. I don't know.
I appreciate that, but my health might say no. You never know, right?
Well, I mean, if you like your job, and I'm one of those, I enjoy the parts of my job where I meet people and talk to people.
And solving problems.
Yeah,
you love solving problems.
I do that. I don't, running the business sometimes it's like, I don't know, I get tired of that sometimes. But, the bottom line here is if at a certain point in time, you might have to hang those spurs up and, you need to know that things are going to turn out the right way. If you like your job, I have doctors that work until 70, 75. I say, why don't you retire? You have tons of money. And they say, I like what I do. I like being called doctor. I like solving this medical problem because I'm good at it. Heck, I've got 40 years of experience. My kung fu is good. I want to continue doing it. So those are things that you have to decide, a retirement date, but having the retirement money and having the rest of it set up right, that comes with financial planning.
Let me bring up a client that I just met with, and this is an interesting family. He was working remotely in another state. She was here. She had medical issues. He comes down to support her, but the company wasn't sure if they're going to let him stay here working with her, and they might want to pull him back to another state to finish up. They were having some real angst about, oh my gosh, we love it here. We don't want to have to sell. We don't have this. They've got they have a real estate property that's being rented in a third state, and they were really in a quandary. And I said, well, let's run your numbers. Let's see if for some reason the company comes to you and says, all right, I'm going to use a fictitious name, John, you have to report to, home office at the beginning of January. I want to make sure that you have the ammo to say, you can take the job. We are good. We're going to stay here. Or do you need to go ahead and move with the company and, work how many more years to make it work? So it was very enlightening. We went through and they thought they wanted to live on $10,000 a year.
A month.
I'm sorry. You're right. Sorry. $10,000 a month.
I was like,
sorry.
wow.
$10,000 a month. And, he had his retirement money and he had a pension. And they had this house that was not doing much for them in another state. And basically, when we ran the initial analysis at that $10,000, it looked pretty dismal that they were going to have any success rate in making this happen for the lifetime. And so we tweaked it a little bit. And I said, are you sure that $10,000 is really what you need? Let's look at maybe $9,000 a month and what that would do for you. And it basically increased the percentage from like 50% to 90%. Just by reducing that by $1,000 a month. And when they looked at that, you could see the tension just released from them that they felt good. Yeah, we can make a life at $9,000 a month
after tax.
And be able to tell the company, we're fine here. Don't make me move and separate again. And that's the joy of working with people and doing what we do, is that we really change lives. You opened up to us, and we can change lives with these numbers and showing you these things and helping you make those decisions. So the last one is not identifying how much you need to spend for the rest of your life to have the lifestyle that you want, which is kind of what we just talked about, right?
Yeah.
Is really understanding. People ask all the time, Craig, can I retire on $1 million? Can I retire on $2 million? Well, it depends upon how long you live and how much you're going to draw every year.
Well, for the people that were $10,000 a year, they're fine.
Well, we had a
Shut up, Mark.
We had a doctor, and had a million and a half back in a retirement account, but had a huge mortgage and had a lake house with a huge mortgage. And he said, I need $250,000 a year, and I mean they had $1.5 million, and I'm like, I didn't even bother to run. I said, you can't make this work. Oh, man, they got mad at me. And I said, listen, it's simple math. You want $250,000. This is how much I have to work with. You've got Social Security and some things like that, but there's not enough here and keeping these other things. So after they cooled off, they came back. We sold the lake property, and they downsized. All of a sudden, capital was here and no mortgages. All of a sudden, we could make this work because the math lined up. But in the beginning, it was like, I want all of it, and I hear you. I can understand that. But can we make the numbers work when you start the dollar amount that you want, and that's the most important question, and then running inflation and taxes on top of that. We have to run it this way to look out into the future and get the best result possible, because if you haven't thought about it that way, you're just hoping. I remember, man, when I started, $1 million was a lot of money. And it's not so much money today.
Today's show was all about retirement sabotage, and I think we've talked about 5. The number one retirement sabotage is procrastination. So don't make that mistake. Start your retirement plan today by giving us a call at 833-RETIRE-WELL, 833-RETIRE-WELL. Let's get on the calendar. Let's start your retirement analysis and numbers so you know where you're going to be into retirement and through retirement, and making sure you have the best lifestyle possible. Our number again, 833-RETIRE-WELL.
Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. If you have any questions about what we've discussed, remember, you can get a complimentary financial review with the team at Maestro Wealth Advisors by calling 833-RETIRE-WELL, or go online to howmoneyworksradio.com for other great resources and ways to reach the team. You can also check the show notes of today's episode for our contact information as well. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app so you never miss an episode. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all the most popular apps. For Craig and Jennifer Moser, I'm Mark Killian. We'll talk to you next time on the How Money Works podcast.
Securities offered through Cetera Wealth Services, LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Cetera Investment Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity.